Hey, what's your self talk? Jabari is here from What's Your Self Talk podcast. And listen, I want you to download Anchor right now. Because chances are you're listening to this and you're saying, I got some things I want to share. I have some things that I've wanted to put in a podcast form. Here's the opportunity. Anchor is free. You can do it from your phone and you can be on all the different podcast stations all in one app. Okay. So what I need you to do is stop waiting. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Analysis paralysis. Do it now. You'll thank me later. What's your self talk? Hey, what's your self talk? This is Jabari, your host of What's Your Self Talk podcast. And thank you for tuning in again to come and be challenged by that question that you always hear me ask. What's your self talk? If you're new to the podcast, this is a question that I always encourage you to ask yourself as you go through life. And I'll present ideas and even give you thoughts to kind of challenge yourself to be able to pull more of the potential you have inside of you by asking that simple question. So today, we're talking about self-awareness. Now, if you tuned into a podcast last week, we talked about my solution to overcoming the poverty mindset. And I broke down a couple things as far as our environment. And I told you I wanted to go in a little bit deeper about self-awareness because self-awareness has a lot to do with not only, the topic of overcoming the poverty mindset, but it have a lot to do with yourself and who you are and how well tuned you are with who you are, who you're becoming. So we're going to explore self-awareness specifically and how it is a decision every single day for you. And we're going to talk about a couple things, just help you start identifying, okay, that's what that means. I'm going to share a couple of my personal examples of things that I've worked through and I had to push through to become better at my own self-awareness. And then we're going to actually tune into Kevin Hart actually had his audiobook come out today called The Decision, and I had a chance to be able to listen to that throughout today and give you a little bit of feedback because it does hit on this topic as well. So anyways, let's dive in. So let's identify self-awareness, and you go to the lovely Google, it help you out. So the definition saying is conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. Okay. Now, what it means to have self-awareness is your ability to be able to focus on yourself and your actions and your thoughts and your emotions. What your emotions do or don't align with your internal standard. It's important. If you are highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself, manage your emotions, align your behavior with your values, and understand correctly how other people perceive you. All right? So let's dig inside of that. All right? So you and my ability to focus on our own actions, our thoughts, and our emotions is very, very important. Because one thing I've always done, I will always, in my head internally, if I've made a decision or if I'm on a thought, like let's say, I'm writing down in my journal. And generally, I write down in my journal first thing in the morning, and things that come to my mind. Generally, it's something that I really am working towards, or something that happened yesterday that I'm processing. And so, it's just like when you lose your keys. What are all the things that you're supposed to do? You're supposed to backtrack. Well, I remember when I came into the house, I took the keys out the ignition, and I grabbed my bags. And then when I went in the house, I put the bags down. I still have my keys in my hand. And then I went into the room. So it's you track me, in my mind, I track every single thing that I do. And it's just like that in self-awareness. And so when you think about how your ability to focus on your actions, let's just think about it from a simple peace of mind. Like if you struggle with having peace of mind, why? What are the actions that you're doing or not doing to not allow you to get peace of mind. So I'm going to give you an example for me. Me having peace of mind is being able to wake up in the morning, spending my morning in my quiet time, and being able to work out before I start my day. And I've been doing that for years. My wife understands this is my routine. A lot of my close friends understand that's my routine. And if you follow me enough, you'll probably see I'm always posting workout, most likely in the morning, and I probably will be sharing some type of scripture sometime. Now, my ability to do this first thing in the morning, regardless of how I feel, self-awareness, is me understanding like this is an internal value for me. And this is the internal value because I know this gives me better peace of mind. I know this allows me to do my work better. It allows me to focus in on any tasks or any trials or anything that comes about. And so that is one of the things I'm very aware of. Now, I remember if I fall off and I don't do that consistently, I become a lot more stressful. I become a lot more frustrated at things, and it just messes up my day. And it's important for me to understand that more than it is for my wife to understand that. It's not her job to hold me to do this, or my best friends or anybody, because when you are very aware of the things that help you manage your emotions and manage your stress and just manage, life in general, you have to put it into play as this is an internal standard. So you must live off these standards. It's you understanding, if you put it in a basketball metaphor, if you understand that if you play basketball, the goal is 10 feet high. And so you always want to practice, and you're always going to practice playing basketball on a 10 feet high goal. Now, are you going to lower it to 6 feet? Are you going to lower it to 5 feet? Even if you're a little kid, eventually they have to raise to that standard as they grow. And so so basketball has a standard. You need to be able to adjust to this 10 feet goal. Okay? So whatever you need to do it. And you need to be just like that with yourself. These are the standards that I'm going to live by. I'm never going to lower my standards, because if I lower my standards, then I'm not allowing myself to really be the individual that I ultimately can be, because I'm making excuses. And that's how you can kind of point to, okay, what are my downfalls in life? Why am I where I'm at in life? Because if you've not really had an internal standard, then that's what you need to work on, because those standards are key to the decisions you make in life. What am I going to do this weekend? How am I going to spend my time? What am I going to do with my family? What am I not going to do with my family? What am I going to do with my friends? What am I not going to do with my friends? This is something that you have to have. So what is your internal standards? And if you don't have any, ask yourself why. And maybe this can tap into the next thing, is your ability to manage your emotions. Now, this is huge for me because emotions and feelings, I am very emotional, feeling person. So I am very in tune with my emotions. And so what I mean by that is I can allow my emotions to trump the logic of what I'm supposed to be doing. In other words, my standards. So if my standards tell me to do this, but my emotions say I don't feel like doing this, or I'm mad at this or whatever, I can become so emotional that my emotions can overrule my standards. And that is a major pitfall for me, because that's not good. Emotions are great to have. Emotions are very helpful, but emotions does not need to rule your life. I heard a speaker say that emotions are very healthy to have, but when we allow our emotions to drive us, then that's when it's very scary, because you pretty much are, you pretty much allow the external things in life control you. Because you think about it, whatever is going on in life, and if it's bad, and if it's something you can control or not control, you're going to allow your emotions to dictate what you do. And if you allow your emotion to dictate what you do, it's not really any baseline you're going off of. It's not any standard that you're going off of. So it's important for you to be able to distinguish the difference between your emotions and your standards. And if you have any standards, they will be able to point out, well, this emotion is good, but you got to be careful when you may have a discussion with your friend, or you have to be aware if you're having a discussion and somebody tone of voice is starting to get up, and you know how that starts to set you off, and you become a little less logic in your discussion you're having. So that's important. That's you being in tune and being aware. And so let's talk about your self-awareness in other areas. So we talked about peace of mind, and I talked about how eventually your emotions can affect you. Excuse me. Now let's talk about maybe your finances. All right. Self-awareness about your finances. Now, this can be very good or very bad because it can go back to how you was raised. And when you think about your finances, was this a common conversation that you had in your family, or was this just something in passing that you talked about? You knew the money was there, you knew you was struggling with money, but nobody ever talked about it. And so if that's what you've seen, that's what sometimes you want to emulate. And then you're now in your 20s or 30s and 40s, and you're still emulating what you've seen because either one, you were fully aware, you've made a conscious decision to keep those habits off what you've seen in your youth, or you unconsciously have not done enough digging inside of yourself to understand, why am I doing what we're doing? And that's when self-awareness really, really is important, is if you are consciously aware of something and you are ignoring it, well, you're hurting yourself, because when you are aware of something and you choose not to do something about it and doing something in a way that's going to help you, well, I'm going to be honest with you. If that's you listen to this podcast for a reason. But if this is hard for you to listen to, then you have to start looking inside of yourself. What emotions are flaring up when you're thinking about this? What emotions come to mind when you realize, like, yeah, I consciously do that. Or do I? Do I do that when I get mad, or my spouse do this, or my kids do this, or when works end up going longer than I planned it to be? Like, what happens inside of you? Like, identify that. That is so important. And when you think about your finances and you don't have enough money for whatever that, let me give you an example for myself. When it comes to finances, when I grew up, we never really talked about money. I seen money was a struggle. I seen it being something that ruled how and to the standards that you live and you go about life. Well, one of the things I made a decision on, and I talked about this in my last podcast, was I didn't want to struggle financially like I seen when I grew up. So my ability to see that at an early age and start taking control of the things I needed to do, I was fully aware of what was going on around me. I didn't choose to ignore it. I chose to do something about it. And that is what started to drive me and start build my standards. My internal standards was, I'm not going to live like this because I don't have to. I've seen other people who can make it out these situations, and I'm going to hang around them. I'm going to study them. I'm going to try to have conversations. I'm going to do whatever it can, read books, go to programs, online, in person, whatever. Like, it's always going to be something I'm going to do to allow me to get to the level of financial success that I don't have to experience this anymore. And so for my own self-awareness is I focused on what I wanted. And so my standard was, I'm not going to live like this. And I'm going to do everything in my power to see that I don't, and my family don't as well. And that is something, as you can see, it riles me up, because I realize it's like, you have a decision on how you live your life. And if you do not make the right conscious decision to make yourself better, then you're actually saying, and if you have a family, if it's people that look up to you, you are saying, I don't care about myself. Therefore, you're telling other people they shouldn't care about themselves as well. Think about that. You're literally saying, I don't care about myself. I don't care what I do. I don't care. I just want to get through the day, or I don't really care if I even make it any longer. Like, whatever the thing that come to mind, like, just think about how demotivating that is. And if you don't want to be around yourself, why would others want to be around you? Maybe you don't care if others around you. That's fine. But why? And I think self-awareness really comes out is when you start to see who you want to be and what are the things you're working towards. And so let's go in career. When you think about your career, let's go back. Let's go with family. Let's go with family. What is the family that you want to have? Because your family is going to determine how you view and pick your career. At least in my mind, it is. And that's part of my internal standards, right? So my family, when it comes to self-awareness, is what are my internal standards? Well, part of them was built off of how I was raised and how I didn't want things to be like it was when I came up. Part of it is as I met my wife, we talked about things that we want to have for us and our family. And so we built that standard and we monitor those things. So self-awareness in our marriage. And you understanding what are the conscious choices that you have to make in order to protect that standard that you want for your family. I want to put my kids to bed. I want to make sure I wake up with my son in the morning, or I want to make sure that I give my wife free time when I'm home. Those are an example of me having the family and the life that I want for myself. Being able to clean up without my wife saying anything. Being able to do these things that I know that's going to serve her, that's going to serve us. And being aware of that and understanding, like, if you didn't do it, say you had a bad day, work got to you, and it was just so many things that went wrong, and you still have to go home and deal with the kids and deal with your wife. You have to understand, like, okay, my set of standards that I have for my life is I love my family, and I'm going to make sure not only that I'm there, but that I am present and that I am doing the things that's going to make them feel loved, make them feel served, make them feel important, regardless of how my day went. Like, I've always heard people say, if you had a bad day at work and you're driving home, you need to listen to something, or you need to put on a speech. You need to listen to music or a speech or something that's going to allow you to get in the mood that's going to go into that house and give them 100% and not know how your day was. That's difficult sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Especially for me at times, if I've been drained, just going back and forth with appointment with customers and then being in front of a computer, it used to be a challenge for me, but I've gotten better at it because I realize I have to detach myself. And so being aware of these type of things for yourself is so important because it allows you to really start to evaluate yourself and say, what are the things I need to work on? All right. And before we wrap this podcast up, I want to talk about this new book that came out by Kevin Hart. Now, The book is just an audio book. So if you have Audible, that is the only way you can be able to listen to it. But it's called The Decision: Overcoming Today's BS for Tomorrow's Success. Now, I have enjoyed Kevin Hart as a comedian, and I am very, very passionate about business. And so as I started to look more into Kevin Hart, I kind of not only enjoy him just as an individual and a comedian, but I enjoy him as a business person. And I see, all the things that he's doing and why he's doing it. And one of the things I like about this audiobook he came out with was his ability to break down, self-awareness in a very unique way. And I'm going to pull up some of his chapters. So he breaks down his chapters. He have what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. I haven't completed the full book, so I'll just talk about the section I have listened to so far. So in the section, it's part 1, it says the FK yes moment. And this is you just starting to invite yourself to go on this journey of saying, these are the things that I'm going to work on in my life. And he talks about the mental strength training. And then he said, before all that, the next part is know before you go. He said, so before you leave home, before entering this program of this mental strength training, it's a couple things you need to work on. He said, you need to leave home these things: jealousy, perfectionism, comparison, unhealthy fears, fear of failure, resistance, self-doubt, anger, blame, judgment of others, and self-judgment. And all those have great, great breakdowns, but I want to just talk about one because I know one that really rings with me, and I like a quote that he has around it. I'm not going to say it verbatim how he will say it, but this is how it registers to me. And it's perfectionism is, we live in a world where people are so wrapped up in being perfect at everything. And we do that so much that it stopped the momentum. And when we do not choose to move forward, it's because we're waiting for something to be perfect. So instead of us seeking perfectionism, I'm struggling with saying that word. So instead of us trying to seek that, we need to learn to do our absolute best in that time, in that moment. And when we do that and understand, hey, I did my best and I'm proud of myself, and you move forward, you go back, and after a while, you start realizing you are getting better because you chose to move forward and not be stuck in that moment. And I struggle with that. And I'm overcoming that. And as you can see through this podcast, this podcast is, you can hear me messing up as a speaker. I like to try to have my speech perfectly crafted. And this is going to get better over time. But in a moment, I want to bring you the value that I have, and I want you to hear it how you're hearing it now. Because my ability to go back and listen to myself and see, okay, I need to do better. I need to watch how I'm saying this and saying that. I now have something to measure myself on. I hear myself. I know what I sound like and how I need to get better. And when you give me your feedback, so that's just one small example. And so I highly recommend, if you wanted to listen to that book, is something that's so good because he's done a great job at mixing personal development with laughter. And, if anybody knows me, I'm a very big fan of Zig Ziglar. And he did the exact same thing in all his speeches. And this is, Zig is, passed away. And I never got a chance to meet him. I got a chance to meet the family. I just seen all the lives he changed, and he's encouraging people still today. And he's encouraged me. And he did a great job at using not only his faith in his speeches, and encouraging people, but he used humor. And it's just through science, they've shown how much you can retain more information in that way. And I think Kevin Hart does a great job at that. And that's what makes him more appealing, because not only can you tell jokes, but you can actually not only live the things and the examples that you're talking about, but you can put it in a relatable way that everybody wants to listen. So definitely check that out. And that's what got me to this title of Self-Awareness is a decision. And so you have to make a decision. You have to be able to say, what am I going to focus on? I'm going to consciously be aware of my character, my feelings, my motives, and my desires. And what are your internal standards? Think about that. If you don't have any, let's start thinking about what are the things you need to do to start building them. And stop letting your emotions drive you. They're good, but if they make you blind to what's really happening, then you need to get in check. And maybe you need to talk to a friend. Maybe you need to talk to a counselor. Don't be afraid to take the necessary steps that you need to take to get better. All right. So I thank you for listening. I really want to know your feedback. And hey, if you struggle with self-awareness, let me know. Reach out to me. I'd love to know some questions you have. I'd love to be able to come back and answer your questions. You can keep it anonymous. As you know, you can find this on Apple. I'd love to know your feedback. Leave reviews. Definitely subscribe to the podcast. And I thank you for listening. And this is Jabari with What's Your Self-Talk, coming to you with another episode. Self-awareness is a decision. Now go out and make a decision that's going to make your life better. And the way you make it better is by answering that one question. What's your self-talk?